Man, so with this car, when Taylor dropped it off, he kind of just gave me creative freedom to make decisions based on what I think is going to look best. So today in this video, what I'm gonna do and what I think is going to look best, we're gonna go ahead and shave the side moldings. The JDM GC8s don't come with side moldings. Well, I don't believe, I just know some of them don't have them, and I think that looks a little better. I think it looks a little cleaner. So today, that's what we're gonna do.
And now, you're watching the Airport Body Scanner Cloud That Is a Fart channel of YouTube. Welcome to Bodie Vision.
Hey, so what's happening? So we are just going to get right into it today. Now these side moldings, they'll come off without me having to take apart the door panel, but I have to take apart the door panel because in the bigger picture with this car, the door handles have to come off because there's this rubber trim around here, and it's just going to be easier for me to remove the door handles, take off that trim, paint everything, and then put the trim that goes around the handles back on after the fact, rather than trying to tape it off and paint it and then having clear coat not get all the way around there. Then that point can fail. So we just want to go ahead and do everything as good as we possibly can. Therefore, I have to take off the door panel to get access to all that from the inside. So I jumped ahead a little bit, but we got both door handles off. Well, actually all 4 door handles off. And something that I really like about this car, and as I'm getting into different cars, Subarus and Civics, I've never really worked with a Subaru, but one thing that I really like about this car is that I like the fact that the door lock stays and all these mechanisms just can stay. And then this is the same. If we just push down on that little rod, the door can shut, the door can open, everything is good. So as I'm working on different cars, I'm finding out different things, and back to the task at hand. We got the door handles off, we got the side moldings off, but now there's all these holes in the body. So that's what we're gonna have to address next, and that's actually the shaving portion of this entire job. So what I've done in the past is I've used a little angle grinder with a flap disc to kind of clean up that metal. But what I found is that grinds the metal down too much. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use this real sketchy operation of a machine. You know what it is. So now that all of those holes are clean, and actually I don't know if you can tell, but it's raining outside, so the audio might be a little bit off, but sorry, that's just what I'm working with. So the next thing that I have to do and that I want to do is I want to make little metal plugs to go in each one of these holes. And I know some people have suggested before to put copper behind it, like a penny or something, but the actual door bar, or the main structural part of the door, is blocking a bunch of these holes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use my stud welder, weld some studs onto some pieces of sheet metal, and you'll see how I go about doing this whole thing. Alrighty, so over here, still raining, but I have all my little metal plates ready to go. I just have 10 of them, and again, I just used the stud welder right here, put a little stud on a piece of metal, pretty self-explanatory. And then we're gonna take one of these and go in a hole like this right here, put it in there, twist it around, and then pull it towards me. And then that's a good metal plug right there. So the rain slowed down a little bit, finally. Still kind of sprinkling, but anyways. So what we have going on, you can see all those studs on the car. Looks kind of crazy, but that's just how it goes. Some of them actually came off while I was welding, and I don't know if you saw in the last time lapse, I actually taped some welding gloves to my feet. You know how many socks I have with holes in them, and that's not a good time. And wouldn't you know it, it is actually raining again. Now, I just recently did this exact process on Percy Muscuddy or on Zosh's Integra. I'll put that as one of the last videos because I'm not exactly going into detail of how exactly. I'm not exactly going into details on every single step. So if you want to see something more along those lines, that'll be at the end of this video. So the next thing that we got to do, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe it down, make sure there's no kind of metal dust, metal debris, anything like that before I go ahead and spread my body filler. And before you know it, you'll never even know these side moldings were there. Now, as we're letting that body filler dry, I just wanted to make note of a couple different things. First of all, before you start welding, you always got to make sure you disconnect the battery. That goes with the stud welder, that goes with any type of welder. You always just want to make sure the battery is not connected on a car that you're welding on, and that's to prevent any kind of electrical overload or anything. It's just kind of a precautionary step. So the battery was disconnected beforehand. And now with a project like this, the key to doing it successfully is to always keep the next step or the main goal or the end goal in mind. For example, as I'm grinding down that metal, if I just think, okay, the step is to get rid of all the paint, then if I grind the metal down too thin, the next step, which is welding, is going to be really hard. So that's keeping that in mind. And then the next step, you want to fill in that hole as much as possible. That way you have a bunch of material to grind. If you just grind it where you think it looks pretty smooth, then when you come to do any body work, if that weld is higher than the body, you're not going to be able to grind it down. So you need a little bit of extra, because when you're grinding down, you almost want to create a dent that you can barely fill in with a little bit of filler, because if it's too high, again, that's going to be a bump. So you'd rather overcompensate, make it a little bit of a divot, and then fill it in with body filler. And just, you got to have that mindset every single step that you're doing right now, or that I'm doing right now. How can I do that the best possible way to make the next step easier? And also with this body filler, I put that little tape line there so that way no body filler went up into that crease, because if body filler gets into that little body line, it's a real big pain in the ass to sand. So I just put a little piece of tape there and then peel it right away. And now if you can see, that's just a nice clean edge over here. So this was me just pulling off the tape, and this is what I was talking about. Since this filler is actually on the flat surface and not going into the corner, the sander is gonna knock it all down. So that's it for this. I just gotta sand that down, and then that's just part of the car like normal. Then it's back to your regular scheduled body work, sanding it down, and then we're getting ready to primer and moving into base coat, and we'll get into that when we get there. So we are definitely getting really close. Now the next thing I want to do is just skim out the entire thing from edge to edge, from over there, skim the entire length of it, and then I'm going to use my straight line sander or my air file. I don't know what people call these, but then I'm going to use this just to make sure that it's completely smooth and completely flat, because when you're welding on the surface, the metal gets warped a little bit, and you can see some of these, that exposed metal is actually a high spot. So So we got some lower areas, some higher areas, and that's gonna all get addressed with that one final skim out. But overall, those holes are all gone. It is looking really good, and the shaving portion of this project is about done. So now that we're getting to the end of this process, I want to know what you think about this. Are you a fan of the side moldings? Do you think that shaving them was definitely the way to go? I kind of think that leaving a car OEM how it comes from factory is usually the way to go, but this comes both ways from factory. So let me know what you think. Now coming up in the next video, what I'm gonna do is, I guess, just keep making progress. So that's gonna do it for this one, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'd like to invite you to subscribe if you're new around here, and welcome back if you're not. Alrighty, I guess that's gonna be it. Like this video, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff. You know what it is, YouTube. I'll see you on the next one.